Peace and love, everybody. Peace and love. Good evening, good afternoon, or good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to the World Media Coalition Jazz Lovers Television Network broadcast of Heaven's Royals, hosted by Princess Sheffy out of South Africa. Sorry for the inconvenience. We had some technical difficulties in the beginning of the show, but now I believe we're up and running. So without any further ado, I'm just going to hand the mic over and video over to Princess Sheffy. If you can introduce your guests, give us a little brief a brief information about what the show is about today, so we can catch up on time. It's good to see everyone. Here you go, Princess Sheffy.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ahmad. Thank you. Yes, these things, they happen. This is our new world, hey? So, ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you, your excellencies, your highnesses, your majesties. And a great thank you also to His Excellency Makubu and to you, Ahmed, and also His Highness Andrew Williams for affording us this opportunity, this platform. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, I just want us to check if we see if we have all our speakers. Do we have Nina? Is Nina coming, Makubu?
Actually, Nina is in Ghana. She flew out on Sunday. So
right.
she's in Ghana.
Okay, we haven't seen it. So we just wanted to do the house check first. So we thank you for that. So ladies and gentlemen, let me just introduce what the show is about. And I have already said I'm greeting you all from the beautiful South Africa, in Johannesburg to be precise, which is the home of all nations, all faiths, all cultural groups. So before I go any further, allow me to just say this quote that I found it interesting on TEDx by Kerry Anderson. Become opportunity makers for others to find way that can bring us together for the greater good. This is how this production of online TV program was established. It's our indigenous knowledge systems, as well as our values and beliefs that have worked in shaping and directing our lives for decades and still continue to do so. That is why we say that these are the royals, because we want to share, we want to teach, we want to say, these are the values that have worked for youngest years, and we are still even being shaped by them even now. The only challenge is that perhaps there was none that has been documented so that we can all replicate. But now we are saying we are out here to do as such. This has also been being a call or a response to the social ills that we have been seeing around us in our era. So we are saying, can we just try and look back and find what has worked bring it to now, while we are still moving on in a technology-based community or society. We are not saying let us go back, but culture also evolves. But what has worked, there is nothing wrong in us taking it and making it to work even now. I have noticed that we always find it easy to talk about our faith or our religious affiliation. However, we seem to be satisfied to express our culture in regalia only, fashion or performances, our singing, our celebrations that perhaps happens once a year here and there, more than verbalizing as we will be doing today. So this is where I'm calling everybody to say, can we verbalize who we are? Can we celebrate even verbally? Can we bring in the values that have shaped and disciplined us, that the globe over, to be so excited when they see our cultures? We have seen on cultural festivals that when you see the choir called culture, to reimagine, take all different parts from all walks of life and make sense together. That way, open opportunities to learn, to improve, and possibly to preserve our heritage. The fourth industrial revolution, which is now what we are seeing, this production is now going to also be converted into YouTube. That is preservation already. No longer are we going to be still thinking and doing over and over the talk show. So it's not just going to be the talk show, but this is where even a person who's not here today, they're able to tap into that YouTube and see, improve, learn, and even celebrate who we are. The topic of today is reimagining the ancient indigenous Africa in the for all of us that are here. We had the 9 speakers, a lineup of speakers, but I believe we are now left with 7. Makubu, please agree? Because we said Princess Vivian Settin is no longer here.
Yes,
is not
she
participating. Nana,
yeah.
so we have now around 7. So the show will still go on. We are still going to celebrate. We are still going to learn. Is Ambassador Andrew around to try and just give us just the outline of what he's about, the sustainable goals, how we have all come together? Him and Makubu, I'm sure they speak the same language, and he can just give us in the know about who we are, why are we here, and then just in brief. Ambassador Andrew?
Doesn't look like he's on yet.
If he's not here, do you want to tell us the work that you have already done using culture and arts in your space, Ahmad? Just in 5 minutes, because you have used culture, you have used arts.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sure I can. So my organization is called Guerreros da Luz.
For me, yeah, go ahead,
Ahmad.
Ahmad. You tell-
No problem.
Ahmad.
Is called Guerreros da Luz World Peace Initiative. Guerreros da Luz means warriors of light. It is an after school program or during school program, since kids only go to school half a day out here. But we teach martial arts, we teach meditation, the laws of attraction, spiritual laws and principles, art, languages, and we do tutoring for the kids so they can do better in school. Um, we've been operating in Brazil for maybe about 8 years now. Right now we're on hold because of the COVID, as everybody else is. But we're looking forward to get back to work as soon as we're free to roam around as usual. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ahmad. Thank you. That is a great work. It's just that today, because of the challenges that we had, we can't even see the video, but Princess Mobile, in the backdrop of what I have just outlined regarding what the show seeks to achieve and what today as well our topic seeks to achieve, she will be telling us from her own views, how can we take the values that have shaped her life that has made it to be disciplined even as far away from Eswatini home here in Johannesburg, and she's still a very disciplined, grounded young woman. So we have seen the social ills, Princess Nobile. We are now currently talking the world over. If we can values that have been tested and worked, if we apply them to now, perhaps we could really reduce this rage of social ills. Over to you, my sister, Your Highness.
Very good evening to everyone. First and foremost, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, no?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Great. No, it's always a question that I always have to ask on Zoom, because clearly we've got some issues on the internet here, but it's fine. I'm glad that everyone can hear me. Like I said, first and foremost, thank you so much for everyone for being here. I'd like to greet everyone, Your Excellencies, Your Highnesses, Your Majesties. Thank you so much for having me on board. And again, thank you, Sister Tepi, for the introduction as well. Just to go back to your question, is that in terms of the way that I was brought up, I had very strict parents. I'm not going to lie. I my acquaintances, probably just talk about not to say friends, people that I go to school with would have, parents who are more lenient. And it's only up until I started growing up, when I started getting older, that I understood why manner. You need to, have a certain dignity about yourself. And no matter where you go, understand that wherever you go, so in terms of that, my parents were very strict. And in terms of our culture, as I said before, it's a culture of respect, where you are brought up in virtue, having honor, and literally making sure that you are well placed in society in terms of the way that you're brought up. So I don't know if I'm making sense in that way, but in terms of what I'm seeing now is that our men in particular, whether it be in South Africa, whether it be in Africa, whether it be around the world, the issue of gender-based violence for me is very touching. In that is that because our men before, my father and his fathers, my grandfathers, great-grandfathers, were never brought up in a system or a place to do such things to women, whether it be domestic, whether it be through human trafficking. Women were always held in high regard. They were always protected. And for me right now, having this gender-based violence, it's very disturbing, where my question is, where is the sense of community? Where's the sense of culture? Stating that culture is not about just having regalia only. There's certain principles that are instilled within the culture that you have to make sure that you respect your elders, that you are brought up in a certain way, that you carry yourself in a certain way. That lesson or those lessons, they are meant to instill you and base to grow up to be a certain person in society. So having this issue of gender-based violence is that we need to ask the community, we need to ask our men, and hold our men to account. Gone are the days now where we can say, like, no, oh no, he's a man, this is what happened, no, because she was dressed funny, oh no, because she decided not to cook for him today. No, that's absolute nonsense, absolute nonsense. We cannot continue to make excuses for men for gender-based violence. Gender-based violence is something that was never taught to us, and therefore it shouldn't become a staple thing to accept or become a norm in society as a whole. So in terms of the community, we need to really go back to grassroots. Understand that we have been brought up in a world where it's now very westernized. Yes, it's westernized, but it doesn't mean that we have to forget who we are and, you know, forget our principles as people, as abantu, as we would say, where, again, you respect your elders, you respect women, you respect each other, you hold each other to account, and you make sure you call each other as well. If someone's doing something wrong, you call each other out. And we should really start, you know, calling each other out for that way. And as well, in terms of calling each other out, this thing of just talking about it doesn't work anymore for our society. It does not work. We need to start taking action against it. Yes, social media campaigns are great, but what are we actually doing about these people? How are we addressing it in terms of what needs to be done? Are we actually pressing the laws or the government of our countries to make sure that these people are held to account? And that's not to say that, no, I'm not condoning anything in terms of taking the law to your own hands. No, that's exactly what I'm not saying. What I'm saying is that we need to put the pressure on our government to make sure that these people are held to account. Because if we don't, this thing is going to keep on building and building and festering, and it's going to become a norm where it's just not being addressed anymore. So in that view, I would really like to call on, especially every man on this platform right now, to act against GBV, gender-based violence, to make your friends, your brothers, your fathers, your cousins accountable to their actions. If you're seeing them or hearing them, getting involved in gender-based violence, it really is up to you and all of us to make sure that this atrocious thing that's going on, the social construct, is broken down very quickly so that we can get back to being people, to being the people that we were when we were brought up by our forefathers before. Thank you.
Right on.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for that.
I can't unmute. Okay. Is the sound, I don't know, the sound is very crackly. Do you hear me clearly, Ahmad?
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Princess Mobile. That is true, that sometimes were growing up in that these things were not there. But I do believe that there was this the man-to-man talk. There was this instilling of the values, instilling of self-respect to our men from the young age, just like also our mothers used to take us girls, also instilling that respect. And thank you very much for such a wonderful view and presentation. And we can see that's exactly that, because now we need to balance the rights of people there, because everybody will tell you that what used to apply in the traditional courts earlier on, it can never be applicable now. Yes, we agree, culture is evolving. But now, when we talk about the Ubuntu, the values of Ubuntu, when we talk about the principles of Ubuntu, I don't think that we can compromise on that. Thank you very much. That's what we are taking, that's what we are learning. And I can see that our guest speaker is now in the room. And we are going to hand over to Ndabezitha. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We are going to be handing over. This is now where we are going to be hearing the crux of today's topic, at length. And then thereafter, we can have the question and answer for both Princess Mobile, those that if you have questions, we will give an opportunity, just 5 minutes to have question and answers. And then also once Ndabezitha Shandu has also done his presentation. You wanted to tell us today, Ndabezitha, about reimagining the ancient indigenous Africa in this technology-based society in the 21st century. You are a young man yourself, and yet we have seen the dedication into culture, the dedication into serving your own kingdom. That is why you are the regiment commander, even as young as you are. It's because of that, that with that, I also take that you have had people that have been mentoring you, people that you're still checking up, with them, however, as you are moving along. So please take us more and tell us further about this topic, unpack it for us so that we can come out of here knowing exactly what we were here for. Thank you so much. Take the stage.
Good evening to your Royal Highnesses. Good evening to your Majesties. Good evening to any honorable members of governments and states around the world. The topic that I will be discussing today is a simple one, but it appears complex at face value. It is reimagining ancient indigenous Africa in a postmodern technology-based society in the 21st century. Before I dive into it, I'd just like to read an abstract of a paper that I will soon be publishing on ideas around this topic. Why focus on ancient indigenous Africa and not just indigenous Africa? To accurately find one's history, there has to be some connection of that history with the source of the culture that gave birth to that history. This is according to John Henrik Clark, Sheikh Anta Diop, Ivan Vincentuma, and Ben Yosef Yohanan. Moreover, what Africans educated in missionary and former Model C schools are taught is that African people are better off being Europeanized because there is nothing helpful about indigenous African culture. And the best thing that ever happened to Africa was European colonization, because nothing happened in Africa before that, and nothing would have happened if Europe did not save Africa from her savage ways. There seems to be objections to facts about Africa by Western scholarship. Said objections are used to subtly justify the dominance of European culture over Africans. This objection is sustained on two fronts. In the first instance, there is an attempt to thwart facts by saying Africa's greatness and contribution, however relevant, was a long time ago. And if one is able to prove beyond any reasonable contradiction that all that Africa was is not only relevant today, but will continue to be relevant as long as people continue to exist, then the second instance of deviation from the value of Africa's contribution becomes a case of being incorrectly accused of tribalism or unnecessary Afrocentricity in a world that has become culturally united, which means westernized. Once discussion of facts of Africa's contributions to human existence become reduced to wanting to move time backwards, the world seems to be united on one issue, that Africa and her people should never again be able to self-determine, because they realize that Africa will become independent from the rest of the world, because the rest of the world needs Africa's resources to sustain themselves, but Africa does not need the rest of the world. Yet there seems to be a narrative constructed in some parallel reality, one which information in the media is sourced from, and this alternate reality is used to drive the theory that Africa cannot survive without aid from the rest of the world and will not thrive if the rest of the world left Africa alone. It is yet to be proven that if Africa traded within herself, educated her people using indigenous knowledge systems, and built her cities in an aesthetic consistent with indigenous African sensibilities, the continent with the most natural resources and culture would not only be able to sustain herself sufficiently or even surpass the point of self-sufficiency, becoming the economic and cultural hub of the planet. To some, this may seem like a scene from a fictional movie based in an Afrocentric fantasy, but it is what Africa was and would likely be if her history was not rewritten to advance a racist or supremacist agenda based on preventing the extinction of a Caucasian phenotype, which is blue eyes and blonde hair. So, to get into the crux of the discussion of today, I would like to examine what I mean by ancient indigenous Africa. For the purpose of this discussion, I will be looking at the time frame 200,000 BCE, which means before the Common Era, to about 9 BCE. The reason for this, basically, I'm looking at the time of the kingdoms of Abtu, which is a region in southern Africa called Mpumalanga, which I have said to be northern Swaziland, to the last Kemetic dynasties before the invasion by people called the Hyksos, who today are called people of Arabia. Why this particular time frame, and why look at this particular aspect of our existence? I need us to recognize that we were civilized before colonialism. Civilization is not defined by wearing a suit wearing, were found mainly in the Americas. They were produced from slave labor. Now, it needs to be stated that the transatlantic slave trade is probably the most savage and murderous enterprise ever embarked upon by human beings. Now, if wearing cotton clothing or expensive manufactured garments defines what we have perceived to be civilization as well as modernity, knowing how we got to the point of wearing cotton garments, are we not perpetuating that savage and murderous culture because it was born out of violence? Secondly, I want us to recognize that we were self-sufficient before colonialism and every other form of indoctrination that came after. We did not need to buy anything from anyone. We world and developed civilization to the point where I think civilization was basically interrupted and has been interrupted for, let's say, the last 650 years, because for the last 650 years, we have been existing in a Eurocentric or Western existence. And as Africans, if one considers that at the point when European slave ships or European colonial ships arrive on African soil, we are wearing or covered in skin garments. Post that moment, we are wearing cotton, which we have not manufactured ourselves. There are very few manufacturing plants on African soil that produce cotton garments. Stop and think. If most African people at this very moment are wearing cotton, where does the cotton come from? It comes from another people. At the time when Europeans arrived on African soil, we believed and practiced a spiritual tradition which fed our entire form of existence, including what we use to drive philosophy for, to drive civilization for. If at this particular moment we are not practicing that which allowed humanity to become civilized, including Europe and Asia, Are we in fact being civilized, or are we just regurgitating that which we taught to the world, and now they came back and are feeding to us and have continued feeding us for the last 650 years? Why I choose to look at the developments in the context of a post-modern time frame, or look at postmodernism, is because postmodernism is a Western philosophy developed in the late 20th century, defined as a movement categorized by skepticism or broad skepticism, subjectivism, relativism, a general suspicion of an acute sensitivity to ideology in asserting and maintaining political and economic power. Stop and think. We live and exist in states that exist through politics as maintaining the economy. How much economic power do Africans have? What sustains whatever power control over the economy? Do we in fact have political power, and vice versa? I need us to look at the skepticism with which we approach our culture and aspects of our culture that we are allowed, or we allow ourselves to practice today. Most people will only ever be in skin garments, or the garments of their own people, the indigenous garments of their people, in days of celebration, and in the context of the South African territory, it would be on what is called Heritage Day. We of the Zulu Kingdom on that day commemorate the day on which the Emperor Shaka Senzangapona was assassinated by his brothers. But on this day, you will realize that we have the potential to be ourselves, proudly so, even if it is but for a 24-hour cycle. We have the capacity to be ourselves as long as someone or something allows us. So in reimagining what Africa was before Africa was interrupted through violence and later colonialism, would it not be possible for us to manufacture our own clothes, to live our own way, in a way consistent with our own sensibilities, our own style, our own taste insofar as our preferences, and not wait for someone other than ourselves to give us permission to live? Basically, our humanity is defined currently by another people, not based on who we once were, but based on who they would like us to be and how they are best able to utilize us in the modern day. In that context, I need us to examine and look at this very moment, are we civilized? Are we at a point where we can say we have progressed as a human existence? Have we evolved? With the access of information and resources that we have currently, can we truly say that human society is moving? In order to move forward as a society, we need to look honestly and scientifically at where we have been. I, in my mind, have the image of the sun of a bird, which flies forward looking backwards. If Africa is the cornerstone of human existence, whatever greatness society wants to achieve, Africa has the answers and not deep space. Until we have achieved the greatness our ancestors were once able to achieve, we will never fully understand whatever we find in deep space. Science and technology were once an extension of the spirit and its existence. Now it is merely used as a means of obtaining wealth, regardless of the cost. Now, to the question that Princess Tsepi asked about, where do I get my knowledge? I get my knowledge from various sources, mostly from elders, people who are of my grandparents' generation. I get my knowledge from senior princes in the Zulu royal house, as well as other royal houses within the Zulu kingdom. I also obtain my knowledge from having discussions with people, as well as from books and various literary sources. My main sources are the scholars who are called the Afrocentric scholars, even though most of them protested being called Afrocentric, because there is the notion that if you look at science from an objective perspective, and you find that there are moments in science where Africa is greater than any other place on earth. These are facts. This is not something that one needs to use as some kind of political rhetoric. It's a reality. Civilization began in Africa, and Europe and Asia were civilized as a result of Africans who took civilization to those parts of the world. Joseph Ben Yochanan refused in interviews to be referred to as being Afrocentric. He said he was a scholar. John Henry Clark refused to be called Afrocentric, and he is probably the most astute person when it comes to what Africa was before colonization and the interruption thereafter. If we look at the history as told by these particular scholars and others, scholars like John G. Jackson, Ivan Van Sertima, as others, they speak of an Africa that existed from the inside out. So when one enters the world, they enter as themselves as a human being. Then they are members of a family. Then they are members of a society, and thereafter members of a nation, a continent, and a greater human population. What we seem to have in Africa at the moment is, as Africans, we take what everyone else is doing and then we internalize that. This is the moment I am saying, let's pause from. Stop at this particular moment where you can decide what it is you identify as relative to what your cultural identity has given, and then go into the world. Because until we find ourselves as Africans, we will never be able to contribute to the world, regardless of how much education we may get from whatever part of the world that we're educated by. We will never have a meaningful contribution to the world because we are just merely regurgitating what the world has given us before this very moment. In closing, I want you to imagine an evolved society. In my mind, this is what a human evolved society looks like. Close your eyes and think about South Africa and what it looks like on Heritage Day. Take the technology of China, South Korea, and the Silicon Valley. Place that into a spiritual retreat among the Dogon people of West Africa, as well as the Tibetan people of Southeast Asia. I have just transported you back in time to about 10,000 BCE. If we want to get to the point in society where everyone has equal access to the greatest technology, the most advanced technology that human beings can have access to, we need to look at what technology our people had at their at the peak of their existence, not during the Nile Valley civilizations, but just before that, what they developed until the peak of the Nile Valley civilization. That's the time frame I want you to look at, and then imagine what society could look like if we started at that point, and not at the point when the African states gained so-called independence from European states that colonized them.
And I am not left. Get up and go.
Thank you so much, Dabezisha. Thank you so much. You gave, although the technology there was not so generous to us, but we have heard you. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want it to just be myself only. If you have any questions, if you have anything that you'd like to raise with him or clarity, this is the moment. We will just have, perhaps just take about 5 questions. Can we mute our mics if we are not speaking, good people? Yes, Makuvu, you want to say something?
As regiment commander, what is the perspective that you bring in regards to developing a spiritual and global self-defense concept for our people?
You need, okay.
Could you please be more
Thank you.
specific with that question? Because the answer could be very broad, but I imagine you have a very specific answer that you are looking for with that question. So could you please narrow it down? Because when you speak about defense, you are speaking about a situation where you are being attacked. So are you speaking about a preventative measure or a preemptive measure, or are you talking about always being ready for an attack? Because there's a moment when you're being attacked and there's a time when you are not being attacked. So before the attack, could you please specify with regards to what you mean by defense?
Actually, the concept of being attacked before you're attacked, a preemptive and a preventive mechanism. Actually, and then here's the we are already at war. And the war is a spiritual war. And I like what you said about before our continent was taken. And many of us ascribe to our enslavement as beginning in 1619. But our enslavement is a spiritual enslavement. So when Princess Shepi spoke about we can speak about our spirit, our religions, but our people have a difficult time addressing culture. And culture drives your economy. So when our people have a defensive mechanism that's based upon the embracing of culture and spirituality, that becomes preemptive before any other attack is launched. So as a regiment commander, I'm just interested in knowing, based upon having heard you speak, you have a very in-depth spiritual consciousness, and that comes into play with you as a regiment commander. And that's the basis of my question.
Thank you very much. Now I'm clear, and I think I'll be able to respond more practically. I like how people always speak about a utopian existence, always being about ending world hunger and creating world peace. And for all intents and purposes, this is what this discussion is about. Having a very sober and informed knowledge of self is the starting point for me to any form of defense, particularly a spiritual defense. If you do not know who your ancestors are, if you do not know the spiritual tradition that your ancestors follow, you cannot know yourself spiritually. So the starting point to a spiritual attack is knowing, first and foremost, how to meditate, why meditate, and what to meditate for. And then project that meditation outwards into whatever you engage yourself into. For instance, as a regiment commander, before I address Amabut or the regiments, I need to be at peace within myself. So one's relationship with whatever deity or divine super consciousness that they subscribe to needs to begin first and foremost with them. It needs to come from an individual perspective based on the traditions of their people. So until you know who your father's father is, not was, is, until you know the lineage from which you come from, you cannot know completely who you are. First and foremost, to defend yourself spiritually, you need to have a very clear and sober knowledge of self. And then you need to be very regimented about that knowledge of self. If it's something that you read at some point, let's say your ancestors wrote down your history, or it's some piece of oral tradition that you've received from one generation to the next, it should not be something that you acquire at one point in your life and then you never revisit. It needs to be something that you continuously discuss with your kith and kin, and then it becomes something that you live. That way you are able to internalize it, and when you meditate, you can reflect upon it. So in the context of the spiritual war that you are talking about, until we divorce ourselves from the spiritual traditions that came to us through colonialism and violence, while we still pray to foreign gods, we cannot know ourselves. That means we cannot defend ourselves. We are susceptible to any and all forms of attack that our enemy is able to bring to us. I'm not sure if I have responded well to your question.
Absolutely. And you've given me the answer I was looking for, because in order for our people to win, our winning has to be against the spiritual enslavement first. Our healing is in 4 dimensions: spiritual, psychological, emotional, and physical. Without a clear spiritual healing, whatever attack we try to repel will always fail, because our spirit is not aligned in its proper perspective. I thank you so much, and it's a pleasure to be able to discourse with you. Udama Akiyua, Lion of the New Dawn.
Thank you. Thank you, Makuba. I'm happy that you were answered, and thank you very much, Ndabezita, for answering that. What I'm getting is that it all starts in the mind, because if there is no identity, it means even my mind, as Makuba said, psychologically. So if in my mind I'm confused, it's going to come out now physically, and it's going to come out even where there aren't any war, I will be thinking it's war. Where there is no attack, I'll be thinking I'm being attacked. So, and that's exactly what the enemy will do. Work in your mind first. And once the enemy is finished with your mind and you are not aligned, you are not at peace with yourself, as you have said in Dabezita, it is finished. You have already been conquered. There's no way you can even go out in the war when you are not aligned spiritually, when you are not confident, you know. So thank you very much. Shall we now go to, is there any other question, good people, before we go to the next speaker? Is there any other question?
Yes, greetings. This is Brother Beku from Okinichi territory in now known as Baltimore, Maryland. I have a question.
Thank you, Brother Abi.
Greetings to all, and thank you for allowing me on to speak and to ask questions. One of the questions I have for the Zulu brother is have you done any investigation into the stone circles that are all throughout northeastern up into Zimbabwe and Mozambique? There's a European by the name of Michael Tellinger. Can someone mute your?
Sorry, Brother Abiku. Let me just protect you, Brother Abiku. Can we, I don't know whether it's Eric, can we please mute our mics if you are not speaking? So that we can allow the speaker to be able to flow. Thank you. You can carry on, Brother Abiku.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, in short, the stone circles that have been, I guess the person who's been most renowned for investigating them, but it's with the support of the late Credo Mutwa, even though they had an argument and that they seem to have a parting of ways before Credo Mutwa transitioned. But Michael Tellinger, in his research in the stone circles of Tanzania and their unique properties so far as energy goes, has, because I'm very eager to get to Tanzania to investigate that, because I think that is one of the keys of my research, is looking into where would you hide the highest technology, but in what is perceived to be the most primitive people. And when I look at the Mbedeli artwork on the houses, to me, as an electronic technician / engineer, I see electronic circuits, waveguides, and just a wealth of potential for experimentation. Peace.
Thank you. Thank you. While Ndabezita is forming his response, Brother Abiku, thank you for that question. And I would like to also say to you that, by the way, our regiment commander, it's just a respectful title that we call them Ndabezi. So we also belong to an organization called IDO Network. In this organization, we are driven by culture and heritage. So as you are speaking about research, he himself, our speaker here, has also already delivered, even 3 weeks ago, delivered another one of his speeches as well. And he is one accessible brother, but through that organization, we are able to collectively have access to our cultural kingdoms. At least that way it is collective and it comes with respect, so where we can connect to easily as well. When you come to Azania, when you come to see the Ndebeles, when you come to see Amaswati Princess Mobile, who was speaking earlier, very, very, very much grounded in her culture as well, from Eswatini. And now you have just heard from our Zulu regiment as well, very grounded people. So through IDO, that's where you are seeing all of us, because we are saying, let us promote our culture, let the values that we have known to have brought us to where we are, let them all know. And we are very much glad that there is such an interest, even from people like yourselves, to come and research further. We welcome that, so that at least you can have a point of reference accurately. Ndabezita, you can respond. Thank you.
Brother Abiko, thank you very much for that question. Yes, I have investigated the stone circles in what is now called Zimbabwe, or was once called Zimbabwe, which basically means houses of stones or house of stones. That civilization, Mona Mutapa or Manwe Mutapa, basically people of stones, is a more recent civilization in comparison to the more ancient civilization. For instance, I am of the view that Mona Mutapa developed of the kingdoms of the Congo Basin. If you look at the history, you look at the culture and other aspects of what you find, not only in the architecture of that part of the world, but other aspects of their culture. To me, it looks as though it's a people that came from the Congo Basin and then settled in what later became the Mona Empire. This is the way I look at the stone circles that Michael Tellinger and others speak about in terms of Azania. Most of the stone circles he speaks about are later developments. In isiZulu, we have something called Ogophuma Engliwa, which basically means to leave your father's home and then establish yourself. In so doing, extending your father's household or your father's development, his household next to it. This is the way I have civilization in my mind in terms of the way I read history. You have the kingdom of, or the kingdoms, plural, of Abtu in what I call northern Eswatini or in Malaga. And then you have developments going on in what later came to be known as Mapunda or Maputo. And then you have that continuing along the coast, moving north, well, our north, what was previously south, going all the way to the region of the Nile Valley. This is when our civilization seems to have peaked, or humanity's consciousness in terms of what we now call civilization seems to have peaked. Then you have the kingdoms of Nubia, today called Sudan. Then you have the kingdoms of Kush, today called Ethiopia. Then you have what I call the last great civilizations, the kingdoms of Kemet. After Kemet is attacked, then you have Africans moving away from Kemet. First those in now Western Africa, then those of the Congo Basin, and then later those of Southern Africa, because history has it that they came down the Nile on rafts and then eventually started to migrate from the shores of the eastern lakes. So, yes, it's true that the people who are perceived as being the most uncivilized and primitive are actually the most civilized and the ones with the most advanced technology. I mean, if you ask any scientist today, how were the pyramids built? If they don't give you some long, complicated theory, they'll tell you aliens. But when you question science, they'll tell you there's no such thing as aliens. It becomes very murky. But if you ask the ancient people or the descendants of the ancient people, they will tell you how pyramids were built. If you look at our huts or amakukwa and the way they are constructed, forget about what materials are used. If you look at the science of the circle and the triangle, it's the same mathematics. If you want to find out more information about how the pyramids were built, ask the people who are still building pyramids. They're just not as triangular as they once were. But in a roundabout way of responding to you, yes, it's true that the greatest technology exists in so-called most primitive places. The work of Michael Tellinger is very problematic because the elder Umkhulu Umutwa discredited it. And he is the one who gave them most of their information. It becomes a problem to use him as a reference or a point of reference to any knowledge pertaining to that. Yes, some of the science, factual consistencies, but I tend to stay away from that and look at more informed scholars or speak. Luckily, I have access to elders who don't have a problem divulging information to me, and I think the best way to find information about that is go to the places where these stone circles still exist. I'm not sure if I responded enough to your question.
Has anybody done any, because I know as a technician that one of my frustrations when I look at the frequency chart, the US allocation frequency chart, is that there's so much higher frequencies that aren't even, we don't have even, as someone who spends a quite bit of my time in the last 20 years plus, fixing, designing electronics, there's not the diagnostic equipment to really measure these frequencies that we're seeing. And so I know that just from what, what they've done with the GPS is once they can locate themselves on the GPS, and as soon as they step into one of those circles, they disappear. So there has to be an electronic phenomenon of some sort going on that goes beyond what is in this, diagnostic framework that has been incorrectly taught almost in every institution, because I follow scientists who say that the way science is taught around the earth is the equivalent of an antagonistic religion. My first teacher, as I was doing my knowledge of self studies in New York City, was Professor Gabriel Yibo, the discoverer of the grand unified field theorem. And it was he who taught me that in one 16-ounce glass of water is enough potential energy to power all of New York City for a day. So I said, we only need 365 16-ounce glasses of water. He said, yes. So since then, I've been making fuel cells. And I'm very interested in getting to Tanzania and investigating and designing the equipment, because you have all the raw materials there. All the rare earth minerals, and even with some of the experiments of one of my scientific instructors, Dr. John Maluski, and his being able to basically, it's alchemy. They've been able to do, alchemy is real. And so there's been able to transmutation materials that I'm very excited that, what already exists all throughout a cable line is, like I said, where would you hide the highest technology? And so I'm very pleased to be on this and happy to begin to have this type of conversation so we can begin to develop relations, so we can then get in the field, get in the lab and create, because, with what I've done already in the last 12 years, we can structure ourselves an economy that'll surpass what currently exists. Peace.
Thank you. Thank you. Brother Abiku, I would like to refer you, I think he is here, Dr. Zulu Matabo, although he was not the speaker today. We had him in our previous production. He has probably done extensive work in the subject that you're talking about. He's very conversant. He also has, I put the details there, Madisebo University here in Johannesburg and Sandton. Himself is an engineer, and yet he has written books as well. And hereafter, I will also be in touch with you so that we can also connect you to him. Because I'm thinking that if he, I don't know if he can hear me, he can greet, but he'll be able to take this conversation and help you, and he can receive you. His university is also the Research Institute, which can give you even in-depth information on that. And he's knowledgeable. He has written, he lectures as well. So we will still have him once again to give us in-depth on exactly that subject that we're talking about. But yes, I'm willing to give you information besides what I have put also in the chat.
I
Thank you
appreciate
very
that.
much. Thank you for that interest. We are looking forward to welcoming you in the continent and in the country.
Professor
Thank you.
Shepley,
Right now, ladies and yes.
I would ask for proper protocol that Naledi and Sheppy be the point of contact for all of the participants.
You have muted yourself.
Sorry. Do that again.
It's the phone.
Okay.
All right. I think what he was saying is to perhaps have the link. All right.
Yeah. I'm sorry to repeat. Yeah, to repeat the protocol, proper protocol for anyone is to reach you for Naledi and Sheppy as the interface with everyone on the continent, because that would be the proper protocol. You know how best to.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. I think I've got that point. So having said so, Ambassador Andrew, I'm wondering. Kay Marie, Honorable Kay Marie, are you around, Madam? I would like you to take up the stage and unpack the subject of today, this topic of today.
Hey, hi.
Kay
Everyone.
Marie.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. I'm honored to be on this platform with everyone, your highnesses, your majesties, your leaders, and that's here. I thank God for Marco Carvey, Lion of the New Dawn. He invited me to be on this platform. I'm so intrigued and humbled to be a part of it because I hear so much that is touching all our communities, from families, cultural, spirituality, economics, education. My subject today in regards to technology and how it's going to help us to spread our messages, which are together collectively intertwined, is the injustice that we face here in America in the court system in terms of our families, especially children. I have been a part of a 6-year court battle. It's a personal thing, but it's even before, I got in it in a personal way. 6-year court battle with getting my grandson, who's been a severely abused child. But even before that, we have seen where, as Your Highness has pointed out, that our culture is being on attack. Our families are under attack, and we have a system that has colonialized us from the 14th century and have successfully separated our families through slavery and the diaspora. And now they are modernized it through the courts. Instead of us trying to solve our problem within our communities and within our families, we take our situations to these colonialist people who have no interest. They have no interest in anything but dividing us and conquering us. And what has happened in this American society, and I'm speaking on behalf of my organization to end child abuse now and forever, is that what has happened is that the child is caught in the middle. There was a time when our families were able to sit around a communal space, whether it's a table or it's on a mat or something, and we could discuss our differences and we could discuss our disparities and we could solve it. Now we are taking it to the courts that have no interest in anything but in incarcerating our men, especially because once you take the male out of the family and the female, the child is left by themselves. So they've turned it into a gender thing and a gentrification thing. And it starts off, as I said, with slavery, and now it's in the courts. And what they have done is, in a way, what they're trying to do, especially to our boys and our young ladies that are growing up, is to split the family, wherein the child doesn't get to have the full effect of, if he's a male, fatherhood, if it's a girl, womanhood, and if they do have that opportunity, it is a very skewed opportunity because they're not able to enjoy the full benefits of the village that would raise them, the aunts and the uncles. We have communities in America that are so split up. You have the seniors that are in one place, and you have the children and the single mother in another place. And God forbid, if the father is caught with a court order that says, or given a court order that you can't see the child, all you have become is an ATM machine. You're literally supporting a system or supporting a child that you will never be able to see. And the brainwashing of the female, I had to do a lot of research on this, that they have practically used the Willie Lynch system to brainwash the females here, to let them know, to inform the court and to make up a lot of stories on the male parent so that he can be kept away. And it's a total effeminizing of the male child and masculizing of the um the masculizing of the female child. So they don't get a healthy balance to know what a man looks like. The male doesn't get a healthy balance to know what the male father looks like. And he's just exposed to the female, and the female really doesn't get a healthy balance to know what a role model should look like. So, being a part of that court system for the last 6 years, I saw where the pathway to our children is youth detention, because without the structure of both parents, it is leading children into what is called the school to prison pipeline. When a child, as I said, spiritual component and their physical component, there's inner turmoil. Most of them are distracted, and they commit acts that lead them into juvenile detention centers. And then, as long as they can condition them through the courts, because these are court ordered juvenile centers, as long as they are in there and they continue to go in there, then the next thing for them is prison. Once they reach 18, that's it. They commit a crime, they're going to go into the prison system. So I think the use of technology across the globe, and I like the fact that His Highness made a very great point, is that I'm trying to remember what his point he made about the reimagining technology to open up the opportunity to preserve our families, because now is the time when children are home. Now is the time when families are home. We have no excuse to expose them to our culture, our history, from whence we came, because many of us are here because of the diaspora. Many are here not because they want to be on this continent, of North America. We are here by force, not free will. But this does not negate the fact that we need to learn our history so that we can free ourselves from this judicial oppression, because it is becoming a part of the norm. Everybody's trying to solve their problems in the court system. And all you see are Black males who are incarcerated. So it is very important right now to use technology to expose them to education, not just with math and science, but also cultural, spiritual, and heritage, where they're from. And I look at the continent, I look at you, and you are right there in South Africa. My son is in South Africa. Because we're, but just to know that there's a part of Africa, the motherland, that I no matter how I taught them in school, they have never been exposed to it. So he took upon himself. He said, "I'm saving my money. I'm going to South Africa." So I was so honored when I saw where you're speaking from, and knowing that I will be a part of you very soon through my son. And that's a piece of education I can never teach him. And we need to see our the beauty of families, even if we have disparities. We need to see the beauty of communities. We're not able to see that in this country because we're so broken up. And now the court has become our lawgiver. White men and women that have no interest in our families are destroying our families. And so I am very honored, to be on this program. I'm not going to talk at length about the case. As I said, my grandson is a severely abused child. We're trying to get him, but they have brainwashed the mother. And then I've left the father out of the picture, who is my son. And I'm not for male or female. If a child has been abused, it is in the best interest of the child, who, you know, whoever is taking care of him. But to think that one day I'd like my grandson to be able to travel to Africa and to learn that myself also, you know, and to use the technology as a platform to start here. This is where our children should be this morning. They're learning, but what are they really learning? I used to be a part of the school system for 12 years, and children used to climb the walls and were so distracted. But once I started to tell them something about heritage and culture, they settled down and they listened, and spirituality. That means that there is something inside of us that needs to be addressed in our children spiritually and culturally. And what better platform than the internet? This is the time when we have the attention of the whole world. COVID is here, whatever reason it is here for, whether it's an act of God or an act of man. We have got to use the technology as an opportunity to inform, to our brothers and our sisters about our heritage, our spiritual heritage, our cultural heritage, so that we can become more empowered to help ourselves and deal with our issues within ourselves and our communities, and take this information out of the hands of our oppressors. Oh, they have no business in our family. They were not there when the family was being birthed, or you know, that son or that daughter. So I don't see how, you know, how do they have an, you know, I've never been into no court system with anyone apart from something minor, maybe something with my car, or a car tag, or maybe a ticket. I've never gone into no family issues. So for me, this is very new. I had to learn at my age what the court was all about. And it's all about destroying our families, because we are the only ones in there. There's no Chinese, there's no Indians, there's no other person. 99% of the criminal justice system, or the family court system in America, we are feeding it. And that's because we don't know who we are and our children. So I implore everyone, you know, and I thank everyone that have come, you know, together today to use technology to to route our people back and educate them back to the motherland. And I look forward myself too to visiting the motherland this coming year, and actually being able to bring a team of people. So I thank you for that, and God bless you all. Any questions, I'll answer them.
Thank you so much. Kay Marie, you are welcome. You are welcome. And also, even as your son is coming, you already have our details. We are already connected. We are on the legacy group. So we are willing to be helping those that are coming with making the stay as warm as possible, and them seeing the places of interest, and even conversing with us with any questions that they may have. When it comes to technology in helping, that is why we have opened up this platform, so that we are today, as you could see, Ndabezita was really delivering a lecture to disseminate information that otherwise we couldn't have. And thank you to technology as well. And I'm sure we will continue, and he can even be opened up if we speak to him nicely, to help has really dealt negatively with your identity, you are done, because then there's confusion in you, and any platform one another, disseminate information, give that lecture, so that we can improve. As I have said in the beginning, that the whole idea is for us to learn, for us to improve, for us to be able to preserve our heritage, and to gain that assertiveness, to gain even how to fight better against a system that is seen to be destroying our families, as you are saying, that structure. So we are now saying, let us come back together and gain that strength collectively. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kay Marie. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, let us allow Ambassador Andrew to tell us, through collectiveness of our cultural institutions, our kingdoms, is development of Africa possible, sir? Industrialization, development, and progress. Is it possible? Please, the stage is yours.
It is not only possible, it is not only necessary, it is within our hands and our grasp as we speak right this moment. To village, they're based in Kansas City, Missouri, here in the United States, but online they have 8,000 different courses that are free for our youth and adults anywhere in the world to access. You can register free as a student. The idea is to also add the curriculum about our own heritage and about our own cultural backgrounds. In other words, we have the ability right now to create our own learning platform. We don't have to ask anyone to do it. We just have to take the opportunity to do it. I have to ask you also to understand, even though I'm here in Los Angeles, California, it's critically important that you understand that there are people from Africa that are right here in Los Angeles, California, but we're disconnected. So we're needing to use this virtual platform so that we can all work collectively together for our benefit. Unfortunately, the Berlin Conference of 1885, 1884, and 1885 caused there to be arbitrary lines drawn to separate the 3,000 tribes of Africa into 55 countries that are benefiting only the Europeans. With the launch of the African Continental Free Trade Area on January 1st, we can, I believe, take the opportunity ourselves to create the Africa we want. So I'll just land it there, Princess Sheppy, if there are any questions or comments.
Yes, I'd like to comment. Can you hear?
Yes.
Thank you, Makubu.
Uduma Akuyua, line of the new dawn. The line, the new dawn is the resurrection of our consciousness. Uduma Akuyua, the vibratory frequency of spiritual liberation. And I'd like to say to everyone that's in this production, the World Media Coalition Jazz Lovers Television Network, platform that will disseminate information in our culture, but it's our platform that will allow us to raise the standard of living for everyone on the continent and everyone that does programming. Our television programming is the only television network that was going to pay people to watch television when we launched with our platform. The World Media Coalition is our platform. And I want to say that as our efforts move us forward into this millennium, I don't deal with the century, I deal with the millennium. This is the beginning my time, antiquity meant the unification of Upper and Lower Kemet. In this day and time, my Tawi means the unification of the upper and lower consciousness, Udama Akuyua, the vibratory frequency of spiritual liberation. So it is time, as the regiment commander said, to unify our entire being. In order for us to liberate the earth from the disease that has been perpetuated and perpetrated against us by our oppressor. So I thank His Royal Highness Prince Andrew Yao. I appreciate Princess Sheppy and the Royal Commander and everyone that's come on this production, because you are the sunset of our oppression, but the sunrise of our liberation. Udama Akuyua, line of the new dawn.
Thank you very much, Makubu. Ahmad, will you please help direct me if we have all other speakers that are?
No, Nina Womack isn't on, and King Mel Badid Neither King Muad'Dib nor Sharif Balder is on today.
Is
Committee, Marie,
is Millennium Her Majesty on?
no,
No.
doesn't seem
Okay.
like. Doesn't
Well, it's
seem
been
like. All right. So this has been very interesting. This has been very interesting. Is there any other question before we go on? The other question that I had for Ambassador Andrew was the work that he has done with Africa and combining or bringing together through the sustainable goals. The work that he has done, more than 100 organizations through also compete. If you can tell us more, and the work that is continuously being happening between US and Africa.
Well, thank you so much. First, I do want to give recognition to my royal patrons. That would be the monarchy of Yaya and the monarchy of Ezi Igbo in Ghana, representing all the Nigerian people in Ghana, and also His Imperial Majesty Yanko Fofi, representing all of the Akan kingdoms worldwide. I'm very proud and honored to uplift the work of another Akan. His name is Kofi Annan. It was he in 1999 that presented to the World Economic Forum a concept called the United Nations Global Compact. It was intended to go hand in hand with the 1,000-year millennium. It was Africa that had the largest regional input into what is now the post-millennium development goals that we call the Sustainable Development Goals, because in 2012, they were formulating what's called the African Union Agenda 2063. So they had already done the homework and groundwork to align the efforts of the people of Africa with the Africa that they want. My task and my role and my joy is in finding ways to connect the dots together, to actually be a co-author of what's called the Kwanzaa Accord that I launched in 2012 with my thought partner in Bermuda. We must all give recognition to Bermuda as that place that is known as the closest landmass to our Middle Passage, our Ma'afa, whereas there were 10 to 12 million of our African brothers and sisters that were transported primarily towards the Atlantic Ocean. So Bermuda is that place where there was developed a Middle Passage monument in 1999 at the same time that Kofi Annan was having his conversation about this United Nations Global Compact. I invite all of the royal, indigenous, tribal, business, and neighborhood leaders and leadership to join together impact on indigenous and underserved communities worldwide, but they, through the United Nations Global Compact, made a commitment to address human rights, including indigenous rights, labor laws, the environment, and I think most importantly, which was the last but not the least, anti-corruption and transparency. These are the ideals that, as president of 5 Points Youth Foundation in Los Angeles, California, I used, as my daughter, Princess Jeppy, indicated, to rally over 100 organizations around the world to join into this collaborative in 2015. However, we did together create an alliance of over 10,000 civil society members so that we can not just to change the world into the world we want. Thank you.
Give it a chair. Who do I hear?
Mark, you.
Indeed, the Africa that we want, we can achieve through unity. The Africa and the strength of each other is in us coming together collaboratively. And the Africa, and even when I say the Africa, I'm talking about you, Ahmad. You can be across the Atlantic, but I do know that you also want to see your motherland really being the motherland that is self-sufficient, as we have heard. It has been such a wonderful day. It has been such a wonderful production where we learn, where we shared, where we know that relationships have also been built. And we are going to carry on doing what we have done today, even at the higher level. Ahmad has got some events that are also touching very much on us, on the Africa that we want, as they have been organizing for us, for Africa, to really pull us into an advancement level. And they are not coming to take. I've already said so that anybody who comes to take, anybody who is saying, I know nothing, but I will only accept those that are partnering and we are at the same level, at the same table making decisions. Ahmad,
Yes.
you can invite us or let us know about, tell us now about the upcoming events.
Okay, great. Thank you. This event that we're doing is happening on the 20th of Sunday, Sunday, December 20th at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. I believe it's 7 p.m. South Africa, 5 p.m. Gambia. But on the link, you'll be able to see all the information. It is the Wakanda Festival. It's a virtual Pan-African Youth Festival. The idea was was created by Devin Jihad Johnson and I, and we decided that since the pandemic hit, we've been doing a lot of movement along the diaspora, a lot of good connecting, a lot of lectures, a lot of Pan-African youth events. The World Media Coalition and other organizations have been doing a lot of work. And we decided that it would be good that we can celebrate our unity, celebrate our beginning to come together. So we created the Wakanda Pan-African Youth Festival, which is just that. It's just a celebration. It's a virtual party. We're going to be doing it on Zoom, this same exact channel, on December 20th. It's early enough in the afternoon so that hopefully everybody can come on. And we just want to celebrate our unity across the diaspora. It'll be broadcasted from here in Brazil, from Salvador, or from Mojo de Sao Paulo. We're still working on that location. And we just want to have some fun. We just want to party. It's going to be Afro House and Afro Beat. And we'll have a lot of people from Interconnected Justice, the youth, Pan-African Youth Festivals that we've been doing. And we just want to bring people together, and hopefully from there we can connect even more, connect all the different organizations, and just make a great event happen.
Great.
And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are looking forward to that. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, it's a wonderful day, and awesome you have all been. Allow me to say thank you very much to you, Ahmad, for the platform. Thank you very much to Makubu. Thank you very much to Ambassador Andrew. Thank you to our honorable speakers, Induna Yamabuto, Ubabu Shandru. Thank you very much to Her Royal Highness, Princess Nobile. Ahmad, I'm challenging you to keep on practicing pronouncing that name, Nobile. And also, Madame K. Marie, you have been awesome. You have been awesome. This is a home. We would like to host you next year, even your son and all others as well. Thank you very much to everybody who has participated, who has been here. I know any questions I have put in there, or any other interaction or engagement, I've put in my contact details. Let us see one another again. Please take care of yourself. COVID-19 is still around. It is still around. Take care of yourself, protect your families, protect those that you love. And may we see one another again as you're taking care of yourself through this festive season, through these holidays. We are going to meet again on all platforms because we have already created this relationship. Any other questions? You have my link, you have my email address, and let us do this once more for the Africa that we want. only the Afrocentric way, our way, our way. We say amandla, we say unity together is strength. Thank you very much to everybody. From myself, Khosatsana, the Princess of Batlokwa, Sepi, right here from South Africa, Johannesburg, the cradle of humankind. I say to you all, love and peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Peace and
Thank
love.
you.
Good morning to you.
Thank you. Thank you.